All right, so today's question is about how to turn around an employee who wants to leave your company. I mean, this happens from time to time, and obviously, if it's a good employee, if she served you pretty well, you want to try and keep her on. Of course, sometimes you just can't do anything. You know, if they want more pay, and sometimes understandably so, and you can't provide that, well, you have to let her go. May not be anything you can really do if that's the only non-negotiable thing or reason that she has for leaving. But it's possible to turn people around even if they've accepted a job offer. You know, sometimes it's horrible, of course, to renege on a job offer, and sometimes employees come to you after the fact. Most of them do. And again, it's understandable. Of course, it's not something I encourage. I wouldn't do it myself, but people do that. How do you handle that? Well, if you feel like this is something that's salvageable and you want to keep the employee on, there are some salient questions to ask that you can ask, and you want to always get that permission to ask. Of course, the first thing to ask is, are you willing to hear? Are you willing to negotiate in a way that I could keep you on because I like to keep you on? Are you willing to negotiate? Or are you willing to work something out so you can stay? And if they're not, of course, then you have nothing you can really say about that. And then some people try to go into a convincing mode. I would say it's probably not a good idea, because if you have to work that hard, chances are they're going to leave anyway. And even if you convince them, at some point they probably will leave. Now that's a heuristic. There could be exceptions to that, but I would say, as a general rule of thumb, if they say no to giving you permission to have a conversation to have them stay, you probably want to honor that. But if they say yes and you're open to it, then you can always ask a broad question like, what are your terms that would have you stay on here, and not just stay on here, but be satisfied. Because remember, you just don't want them to stay on. You want them to be really happy staying on there because they've already left, in a sense. So if you just have them be only satisfied, it may not be strong enough to keep them on for the next few months. So you want to be, not just satisfied, but really happy about the agreement that you made, and then have them list it out. They may say more pay. Just listen them out. Don't say anything yet. They may say more benefits, and they list out specifically what benefits. They may want more time, more free time, more flex time with their children, perhaps. And again, you want to write all these out. Then you want to read them back and say, well, which ones are negotiable and which ones are not negotiable. And if you're negotiable, what are your ranges? So if they want $20,000 and that's more and they're negotiable, well, would you settle for 15 or would you settle for 12,000 more? So you want to get their ranges of negotiation. The reason why you want to get all this up front is because you don't want to go back and forth as you find out more and more terms for them, right? That can be a lot of work. So find that out, and that's one tack. That's one thing you can do, and then address those, right? But I have another actually better way than that, that tends to work even better, and that is to find out what their objectives are. Because you see, a lot of times people are not attracted by the terms, more pay. There's something else that they see in the longer term, a vision that they see being fulfilled at another job, at another company, rather than yours. So you've got to find out what that vision is. And that's more powerful. I've seen, just statistically speaking, that tends to work better. Work better in the sense that people actually come on and they stay for a longer time. And it works for you as well as a business owner. So I asked them a question like, well, tell me what your objectives are for the next 5 years. Now, if you already know that, then okay, but you want to double check with them because things may have changed since the last time you talked to them about their long-term objectives. So what are your long-term objectives now in terms of your career? Where do you want to be in 5 years? Again, take notes. Because you want to repeat it back to them in their language because they'll feel more comfortable hearing it in their language, but also sometimes we step over stuff as we listen to people without taking notes. So you want to take notes, is what I suggest. Take notes. Of course, if it's appropriate, ask permission if you can take notes. And I'll say something like, I just want to make sure I get everything, so I'm going to write it down. And get all their objectives, where they want to be in 5 years. Keep asking the question until you get everything. So, ask, is there anything else, right? And and then the next thing to ask is, what would change for you if you achieved all of these? Or at least the ones that you know you can fulfill on. If you can fulfill on 5 of those objectives, ask them, okay, if I could help you fulfill on 5 of these objectives, these are the objectives I can help you fulfill on, how would that be different for you? Don't ask them if they're willing to stay on yet. Ask them, how would that be different for you? And they might say something, well, I think I'll be very happy with that. I think I'll be very, very deeply satisfied. Then you know, okay, you got something. If they say, well, it's okay, then you can still proceed, but, you got a lot more to work on. But, if they say they're really happy, then you know you got something, right? And then I would say, well, so if I had a plan, and I created a plan with you to measurably progress you towards these 5 objectives being met in the next 2 years or whatever is appropriate timeline for you, would you consider staying? Would you consider staying, right? And if they say yes, then you say, okay, well, what I request is, give me some time to work on this and brainstorm on this myself, and I request you do the same thing. And let's adjourn, and if you can delay moving out of the company for now until we meet, let's say tomorrow at 9 a.m., and let's talk for an hour and let's see if we can come up with a plan that you feel satisfied with. And so if I created a plan that worked for you, would you be willing to stay on in the company? If they say yes, then you got a workable plan. Now, have I oversimplified this? Of course I have. In this short time period that I have in front of the camera, it's about the best I can do is to oversimplify. Are there nuances and complexities to this? Could they come up with all kinds of responses? Could they have emotional responses and complexities to their family and their partner and God knows what? Of course they will. They probably will. So the key is not to just take this oversimplification, but the key is to apply the spirit of it. The spirit of this conversation is really in making sure that you create a partnership with this person, because usually people leave is because they see that the partnership's not working. Sometimes not because of your fault. You may have paid attention, but you may not have been listening very keenly to the little signals that they've been giving about moving or not being completely satisfied. And there's no way to really 100% catch that unless you do frequent check-ins with them, which is what I recommend. People, for your most valued employees, you should check in with them at least once a month. I mean, seriously. At least a quarter for most people. A quarter meaning 3 months. So I hope that helps, and it certainly helped a lot of my other clients in the past, and I hope to serve you in the future. Take care. Have a wonderful day.